Spielberg, E.T. sequels, him blocking it. Not something I was aware of, but you did send me over, and I'm aware of it now. I have to say, I'm glad they made this hard-fought victory. I'm glad he stepped in and blocked this. This would have been a disaster, Stephen. I mean, why even try to make an E.T. sequel? The whole point was it was a singular story about this alien who was stuck on fucking an alien world and was trying to get back home.
Johnny did write a book called The Green Planet, which was going to take place on E.T.'s home.
I mean, that could have worked, to be fair. Yeah, that could have worked.
Yeah, but it's like the whole micro universe thing that Lucas was talking about. Would it work on film? That's, as a book, I think it's okay, but I don't know. We'll never know if it will work or not. But you're absolutely right, John. This was the quote that Steven Spielberg actually said. I think it was Entertainment Tonight. He was talking to her. The Hollywood Reporter. But he said
it was a real hard-fought victory because I didn't have any rights before E.T. I had some rights, but I didn't have a lot of rights. I kind of didn't have what we call the freeze, where you can stop the studio from making a sequel because you control the freeze on sequels, remakes, and other ancillary uses of the IP. I didn't have that. I got it after E.T. because of its success. I just did not want to make a sequel. I flirted with it for a little bit, just a little bit, to see if I could think of a story. And the only thing I could think about was a book that was written by somebody that wrote the book for it called The Green Planet. So it wasn't Spielberg, it was someone that wrote it, which was all going to take place at E.T.'s home. We were all going to be able to go to E.T.'s home and see how E.T. lived. But it was better as a novel than I think.
Yeah.
I agree with that, John.
Yeah.
The thing you talked about, freeze, classic example of that
is Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis hold those IP rights to Back to the Future, stopping studios going forward with a Back to the Future 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever they want to do to make lots of money, remakes, etc. As long as they hold the rights to that, it can never be done, and that's the way it should always be with films. Certainly films
I wish it was like that with Home Alone.
Yeah.
Fucking hell, should have ended it too.
Yeah.
Sadly, we've got 4. Think.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know what Chris Columbus, wasn't it? I don't know.
Chris is a phenomenal director, by the way. See, when you think of him and the movies he was involved in, first 2 Harry Potter movies, just a real magical touch that guy has, an ability to work with young actors and get brilliant performances. That guy is genius, an absolute fucking genius level director. Everything, it's like those great names from a bygone era you think of, the likes of, I'm always blanking his name, John, worked in the likes of John Hughes, all those great 80s movies that he had his hands all over, fingerprints all over. You think of guys like that, they're just genius. You don't have people like that now. You really don't, and I don't know why, but you don't.
John Hughes, actually, he was involved in Home Alone, wasn't he? Yeah. I think he was one of the writers. Exactly. And I think, I don't know what the deal was with Home Alone, to be fair, but it might have just been that perhaps maybe the rights weren't there for Christopher Columbus to execute. I'm not really sure. In terms of obviously E.T., I think Spielberg had held all the cards because it was an unknown quantity at that point when he obviously signed up to make the film, and obviously held the cards to, if it is a success, then I'll decide where we carry it forward, not the studio. And I'm glad they did, because I wouldn't have not liked to have seen E.T. as a standalone film. It's like the Goonies. Well, I know we're going to talk about that as well, John, and Gremlins.
Yeah.
To an extent, but in terms of E.T., I think it served its purpose. It told a story, and I don't think you can take it anywhere else. It's just one of those stories. It's a very isolated narrative, and it had a beginning, a middle, and an end. And
it's an example, Steve, of a great standalone movie, a self-contained story that works, and there's no necessity to expand it out into a duology or a trilogy. And it's from a bygone era where Hollywood would greenlight movies like that and then not force the director or the producers or maybe even another director to come in and make a remake or a sequel.
You take away the sort of alien, and you take away all the other stuff about the chase for the alien and stuff like that. It's about personal growth with the main characters. The kids in that instance, E.T., the kids, Elliot, blanked on the brother's name, and Gertie.
What a name.
It was it was their growth. Obviously they're living with their mother. I think that she was a single parent, and it's just seeing that growth in those kids. Same with the Goonies. It was about personal growth for each and individual Goonie, and the sort of chase for the treasure was part of the journey. But with you take an ET sequel, where do you go with it? Because the heart and soul of it was the kids. It wasn't just ET, it was the kids that made it special. You make a sequel on the home planet, the kids aren't going to be in it.
Exactly. And then you're left with this stubby little alien and other stubby little aliens. Then you're confronted with the problem that Disney have with Grogu, where you've got this little fucking puppet that just, you're having to float in the air to make it look like it's doing backflips. Or when he's with Luke, Luke's using the Force to pull him along with him while he's talking to him. You've got a whole new problem. The biggest problem, Steve, with these kind of films, though, is that aesthetically, they're very much of a time and they work. And there's a magical element. Even that other one that you've seen, I've not seen it either. There was another one from that era where it's the posters like a kid, I think, sat in like it's like a seat or something. I forget the name of it. But even things like weird science and stuff like that. All these.
Fight the Navigator.
Yeah, Fight the Navigator. Yeah. Films of that era are just a magical element. Even the fucking horror, like action films. I mean, I view RoboCop as like a borderline horror film for younger people like me at the time. Anyway, watching it, I was terrorised by it, but loved it. It had a vibe, and you just cannot recreate that vibe 20, 30, 40 years later. It's dead. Like I says, they don't have filmmakers like Steven Spielberg and his pomp. They don't have guys like John Hughes. They're gone. There is no originality in Hollywood now. It's fucking deader than a dodo. And you cannot. They've tried to remake the likes of Total Recall and RoboCop and they've failed. That's why I'm glad that Zemeckis has got that freeze sort of option on Back to the Future. Because if they try to remake Back to the Future, it would be shite as well. You just cannot recreate the magic. They can't. They're too obsessed with the fucking technology and green screens. These were all practical films. They were all tangible. The actors were bouncing off of real things. You speak about the Goonies, Steve, and the kids seeing the shit for the first time.
We were talking about, obviously, Lord of the Rings previous to this topic, and it's all to do with the right casting. It's all to do with the chemistry between the actors as well. Back to the Future is a classic example of that. It's one of the reasons it's probably my most favourite film I've ever seen. It's because of the chemistry between Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd, and the chemistry between Crispin Glover and Michael J. Fox.
And even the Biff actor, whose name I forget, he had great chemistry. They all bounced off each other brilliantly. It just worked. It was a perfectly cast movie. But then the characters, the actors at that time, I don't know. Maybe I'm just being nostalgic, but they just seem to have more about them. There was an energy. You think of young actors now, it's really disappointing, man. I mean, it's like Finn Wolfhard, no harm to him, but fucking there's nothing they're lacking. I mean, Steve, we reacted to the Goonies. I need to get it out. I've got one part out of 3. I need to get the other 2 parts out. They're all unbelievable actors, man. Every one of them. I mean,
and they all bring something different.
They all bring something different. And they're all
the thing is, you talk about that, John, and as much as I like Tom Holland and I like Zendaya, etc., they're very, very samey in all their roles. I know Sin, one of our good friends from YouTube, is not a fan of Zendaya.
You hear they're getting married, by the way? If they're engaged, I think it's finally they finally let the cat out of the bag. Everyone fucking knew Tom Holland and Zendaya. Wow. Yeah, he's getting engaged. It's just that, you know, I love Tom Holland. I love his interviews. He's a brilliant guy. No, not Sin. He always talks about Zendaya in a weird way, kind of. Sometimes he'll name drop her. Yeah, she makes a great pasta. Then other times he'll say, yeah, my girlfriend or something. It's like, just everyone fucking knows who your girlfriend is, Tom. We know.
It's weird.
You just drop the pretense, mate. Perfect couple, by the way. Both are fucking... It's charisma for an eternity, the two of them. I mean, he's getting the Riz of all Rizzes. He likes to talk about Chalamet being the Riz man. Holland's the Riz man. Let me tell you, he is. Guy's got something. You know who else is the Riz man? Fucking João Felipe Jota, who's re-signed for Celtic. I forgot how charismatic that guy is. His hair is just charisma personified. I was looking at that guy's hair and I'm like, my God. Not many people make me jealous of not having hair anymore. There's very few individuals on earth. Austin Butler's one. Chalamet's one. Jota is another one. But I digress. Yeah, see, you've not got that sort of vibrant young group of actors now. There isn't a Corey Feldman. Is it Sean Astin? I always screw his name up. Even a young Josh, fucking blank on his name. Terrible.
Oh, yeah.
Fucking how do you blank on his name? It's crazy. These guys don't exist now. They just don't. They're just media trained, whitewashed little fucking beige.
John, I was talking about, I noticed it the other week there, I don't know if it was maybe on Screen Rant or one of those places, but there was talk about Goonies 2 is in development and Gremlins 3 is in development.
God. Gremlins is another one, Stephen. I loved the Gremlin movies when I was younger. I was obsessed with them. Again, it's that energy. They just had that energy.
I didn't mind that.
The sequel, I like Gremlins 2, yeah, I didn't mind it. But you just can't recreate it. You would not be able to create a Gremlins movie. Stephen, the audience isn't there anymore. People have changed. The younger demographics are trying to grow up so quickly. They're desensitised to a whole array of different things via TikTok, social media. They're just not the same as even when I was younger. And I'm not trying to be this sort of grumpy old fucking guy that kids are not the same as when I was young. It's not the same. But I do genuinely believe that my generation, the millennial generation, was the last to play outdoors and stuff like that. Kids are just sitting inside now. They're on iPads or on phones. Just fucking completely different creatures, beasts to when I was younger. And these movies, and even when you were younger, Stephen, these movies were getting made for people like us. They're more cynical now. They're more impatient. They don't connect with these kind of stories anymore. You can't remake these stories. And that's why ultimately they're doomed to fail. Now, I don't know how that other movie got on. There was one get remade, wasn't there? God, what was it? It was the original, was it? It wasn't Tim Burton, was it? I don't think it was. You know what I'm talking about? The one when the fucking house set back, they redesigned the whole house. I've never seen the film. You know what I'm talking about? They done a sequel. Was it Tim Burton?
Beetlejuice?
No, it wasn't Beetlejuice. Oh, that's an example of it actually working, by the way. So I may be talking shite. No, there was another one. It's not the Goonies, it's something like that though. I can't think of it. I've never seen the film. I've never seen it. But I digress. I'd love to know how that panned out. They made a sequel to that. What is it called again? Was the young judge from My Cousin Vinny not in it?
The Munsters?
The Munsters. Did they not make a sequel to The Munsters?
Yeah.
I'd love to know if that's been out and how it's done, because that's another example of something from that era.
Yeah.
Was it The Munsters? I don't know. I don't fucking know. I've lost the plot. 2022. That didn't do well. 55%. Rotten Tomatoes, 4.5. Rob Zombie was the director. It flopped. That's what I'm talking about. You just cannot recreate that magic. They've tried it with the Addams Family. It doesn't work. You just can't remake these kind of movies. There's not the audience for it. You've just not got that vibe in filmmaking anymore. There's no real great, brilliant minds. You're having to go back and go to Steven Spielberg, and I don't think he's in that point of his career now where he wants to be making these kind of films. He's matured and he's a completely different guy now to what he was 40 years ago when he was fresh and dabbling with different things. He's more serious now.
I think perhaps as well that there's more studio interference. I mean, it's always been there, but I think even more so now because their mindset is on how much money they can make now rather than any sort of artistic decision being, executive decision being made. And I think perhaps maybe Spielberg is taking on a different role. Even in his sort of directorial roles, it's different to what it was back then. You mentioned Goonies, John, you mentioned films like that, Back to the Future. Steven Spielberg had a hand in getting these films made, although he didn't direct them. He saw the potential in them. He saw the potential in A New Hope with George Lucas. One of the very few that backed A New Hope back then it was called Star Wars. He obviously pitched Back to the Future, helping Zemeckis and Gale get that greenlit because of the whole creepy mother-son relationship thing that studios like Disney didn't want to touch. Spielberg knew the potential, he saw the future, pardon the pun. And the same with the Goonies as well. Obviously it was Richard Dick, I can't remember.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Jesus Christ, yeah.
I'm blanking, did Superman, obviously, Superman.
Richard Lester. Am I talking shit? No,
Le-
Dick Lester. Is it?
Dick Lester did Superman 2. He did Hard Day's Night. It was
Richard, oh, fucking hell. Why am I blanking his name?
Donner.
Richard Donner. Fucking hell.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
I had Lester in my head as well. And exactly again, Spielberg was involved as one of the producers because he had a good eye for a good story. And we always connect Spielberg with E.T. and Jaws, etc. But these other films he had a big hand in. And I'll tell you something, John, it'll be a sad day when that man goes.
Yeah.
Because it'll be a big hole in Hollywood when he goes, because he's been so influential for the past 50 odd years in filmmaking, not just behind the camera.
By the way, Stephen, speaking of people who were influential in film, David Lynch passed away and we never really had a chance to speak about that 13 days ago. What a fucking director he was. I've seen a lot of shots with that guy, a brilliant human being. Great filmmaker. I saw him was the
Beatles thing that came out in Disney Plus just before Christmas. He was in that because he was a Beatles fan. I think he was an Elvis fan, and he was curious to see what the Beatles were all about.
It was era for sure. 1946 he was born. His name came my dog. I don't know what the fuck my dog's doing.
He was involved in the Dune film, wasn't he?
Yeah, Dune from '84. Yeah, also the Elephant Man, Mulholland Drive, films like that. He was just a fucking great director. So sad to see he passed away quite young as well for this sort of day and age, 78. Yeah, I mean that's not exactly not old. And what a head of hair he had, by the way. So yeah, I mean that's an example again of what I'm talking about. Just fucking great directors of that era. We've got great directors now. I'm not trying to be disparaging. Again, what is my dog doing? He's fucking under my feet. I'm literally sat at a desk. I've got a pedal board underneath me with about 8-9 pedals, guitar pedals. Where's my dog going? I don't fucking know. He's occupying 2 inches of space just now. He's a 7 stone, he wishes he was 6 stone, 7 stone Labrador, and he's managing to sit in a 2-inch gap.
He hears my voice, that's what it is.
That's what it is. He misses you, Stephen. It's been a while since he's seen you in the flesh. God help you when you finally do. Meet his presence again, if you thought it was bad before. You're not getting fucking sitting down. But Stephen, I'm glad he blocked it. I'm not for trying to remake these kind of films now. And again, it stems back to what we've been talking about time and again. Certainly I spoke about it in solo shows when I did them, remember them? Need to get back into them, there's no excuses now. I get set, I can switch on fucking 2 minutes, I'm ready to go. Lack of originality in Hollywood. Yeah. There's no originality. They keep making sequels and remakes and quasi-sequels, fucking spin-offs. What has happened to the great minds? Where is all the creative juices went to?
It's all went into AI, John. Everybody's creativity are all...
Did you see that as well, by the way?
Yes, with creating AI so they can think for us.
Who's the guy that's involved in OpenAI, is it? Is that what the name of it is, OpenAI? Is it fucking Sam Altman? Yeah, Trump gave him, I think, what, 500 billion or some shit like that, did a deal. Chinese have basically taken the concept of OpenAI and recreated it within months. $6 million it cost. And they've basically produced an open source AI that's outperforming OpenAI now. So there you go. There's your dinner. So, I mean, that's good for us because it means it's not going to the sort of war machine that is the United States. No harm to anyone from America, but your government is a bit warmongery. So is our government, believe me. We're basically the poodles of the United States, so that can only be good for the world, that we're getting an open source AI, and again, it helps creative minds. But Steve, I'm not for it. There's no originality in Hollywood. Just stop making these fucking sequels. We've got great self-contained stories from 30, 40 years ago that were left self-contained for that very reason, because they were great singular stories, generational stories. And you don't have to go and keep touching and ruining these things and making sequels and spin-offs just because you can. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you do it. Just leave it in the past. Kill it if you have to, as Kylo Ren said. That's a whole other fucking discussion, Kylo Ren, Jesus Christ, and Star Wars again could go down a rabbit hole with that. Stephen, have you got anything else to say? I'm going to end on this final